This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. It is not intended to cause or induce breach of an existing agency agreement.
Hello? 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 This is the Vancouver
Commercial
Real Estate Podcast.
And welcome back to the Vancouver Commercial Real Estate Podcast. I'm Cory Wright.
And I'm Melisa Moretti.
And Melissa, today we have our Frank O'Brien, editor from the Western Investor, back on for his what feels to be and is now his annual appearance on the show, where he talks all about the top 5 investment areas to keep an eye on in 2024. And this is Frank's 3rd year doing this with us. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, you heard it here first.
Exactly. So you want to get your pens out for this one. Last year for number 1, they had Calgary, Alberta. So give or take October, November of last year, he was on the show. He talked all about it. Fast forward 12, 13 months later, bang on.
Yep.
Bang on. Calgary has definitely performed. It's been a great investment market for all those who got involved with it over the past couple of years. So last year, Frank had Calgary, Alberta as their top pick. So I'm really curious to find out what we're going this year. If we're in BC for number 1, if we're in Alberta, maybe we're going to Saskatchewan for number 1 because there's some markets over there that have been making a lot of steam. So you have to stay tuned for that. But speaking of people traveling and getting out there, you're going to Vegas, you told me.
I am.
You're going to Vegas.
For a wedding.
You're going for a wedding in Vegas.
Yep.
And you're staying at the Excalibur. The castle.
Yeah.
You're staying at the castle.
That's right.
And when are you going?
In a couple weeks.
In a couple weeks. We're going for a wedding to Vegas. Staying at the Excalibur.
I'm not a huge party person, but I can do like one good night a year.
So when you say one good night a year, what time are you going to bed in Vegas? Like what time is Melissa going up there?
Maybe I'm not.
Oh, not? No.
I don't know. I'm not sure yet. To be determined.
So it could be a 24-hour bender.
Likely not.
No, okay.
I'm not quite, I don't have that much stamina anymore.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Good.
When the times that I go out now, I have a wicked half-hour bender, and then that's about it.
Yeah.
I'm like right to bed.
Yeah.
Getting old. So on the show today, we have Frank O'Brien. Melissa, one other thing we wanted to touch on, maybe we'll get into this more in the more after the interview with Frank there, is the new short-term rental laws that the province has just brought out.
Yep.
And how that might impact some of these markets. Like I know if you look in like Kelowna, a lot of the zonings up there and a lot of the developments going on in some of these zonings, they've been promoting the Airbnb aspect of it. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens on that. But we'll talk about that more after the show. So without further ado, our interview with Frank O'Brien, editor, Western Investor, top markets for 2024.
All right, let's go.
This podcast is presented by Impact Commercial.
Impact Commercial, John, Alan, the team over there are fantastic. They've all been on the show.
They have,
Friends of the show.
Great guys.
Wealth of experience. They can help with all your commercial financing needs.
Whether it's owner-occupiers, land development funds, commercial investments, or multifamily, these guys got you covered.
And they recently obtained their CMHC correspondent lender status.
So for all your commercial lending needs, visit them at impactcommercial.ca.
That's impactcommercial.ca.
All right, so we're here today with Frank O'Brien, editor of the Western Investor. Frank, how are you doing?
I'm just doing great. It's a little rainy today, but I'm in good mood and looking forward to the interview. Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you so much, Frank. This is our 3rd year now in a row we've had you on about this time. And the Western Investor in the November issue, I believe, releases the top 5 markets to watch or invest in for 2024. So we appreciate you coming on and joining us and sort of letting all of our listeners know before that comes out. But before we get into that, Frank, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and maybe how you ended up as the editor at the Western Investor?
Well, I've been involved in business writing for a number of years. I've written for Maclean's, the Globe and Mail, and I was a contributor to National Post for a number of years. And then I joined Glacier Media about 20 years ago. I edited their magazine section, and then I took over as editor of the Western Investor Yeah, it must be 19 years ago now. It's been going for 38 years. We're going into our 39th in 2024. And we cover the real estate and business scene right across Western Canada. It's probably the largest commercial real estate publication in the country. And despite what's been happening in most of the media, we're still going very strong. We have a very strong readership and some pretty happy advertising. And I'm proud of the job we're doing at the Western Investor.
Well, Frank, we appreciate you coming on. For all of our listeners that don't know what the Western Investor is, in the commercial real estate, as you alluded to, it is massive. It tracks everything. If you're in commercial real estate in Western Canada, it's almost like your Bible, where they're always ahead of it. You're always reading it. Always great publication. Always great news coming out. So, Frank, as we said there, the Western Investor releases their top 5 markets every year to watch for in 2024. And we appreciate you once again joining us here. Without further ado, can we dig into that list with you there? And maybe we'll start at number 5 and work our way down to number 1. And maybe you can let us know why you've picked what you've picked.
Okay. I'd like to preface it.
Sure. Yeah, go right ahead.
This year, looking into 2024, last year, even the last couple of years, it was more flash than anything. Like there was so much going on. There were so many hot markets. There were so many unique markets, just starting to develop. It was kind of fun to pick them because there was so much cash flying around. There were so many people interested. The interest rates were so low. Things were really exciting, which is why places like Penticton, Calgary, and even Banfield on the West Coast, which is just emerging, became, like places people were really interested in. This year and going into 2024, it's a totally different scene, especially in British Columbia. The province itself is predicting we'll have a 0.08 GDP growth next year, which is virtually a non-existent economic growth. The Royal Bank of Canada is saying it could be as low as 0.05 next year. There's cracks appearing right now in the hard-charging industrial market, which has led the country since 2019 in BC. We've had big port strikes this year, massive forest fires. It does not look good for 2024 generally. So we've looked at pragmatic markets that have been proven. They're not flashy, but they've been steady, and we think they'll do exceptionally well in 2024 because of the foundational strengths that they have. So setting that up, here's our picks, okay?
All right, let's go through them. Number 5.
Number 5 is Lethbridge, Alberta.
Lethbridge, Alberta.
Yeah. Now, Lethbridge does not have the deep oil and gas industry that is now being seen right across Alberta. That has proven a strength in the last few years because mega agri players like McCann Foods, Cavendish Farms, and PIP International Inc. are all building multi-billion-dollar processing plants in Lethbridge because it has the land. They have over 3,000 acres of industrial land set, ready to rock on, and they're working on it right. Like they're working right. Every one of those ones is putting in huge plants. McCann's got a $1.6 billion expansion going on. I mean, it's huge, and these are high-paying jobs. The average income in Lethbridge is $111,000 per year, so it's not. But you can buy a house in Lethbridge for $340,000, and a one-bedroom apartment rents for an average of $1,200.
Wow.
So the combination of high job growth, low housing costs, and a projected rapid population growth, because these big plants, and this is, back to our thing on where the growth is. We're back to pragmatic. These are big food producers. And this is, if we need, like a basic necessity, if we're going to need Lethbridge is where they're doing it, okay? They've also got an extraordinarily strong retail sector. Avison Young says that they've hit every record for the last 13 quarters, and there's no sign of slowing down. It's a very strong retail market. So retail, some housing, and industrial is the big play in Lethbridge, Alberta. But I think retail is going to be the real key.
With Lethbridge there, for our listeners, how close is Lethbridge to Edmonton or to Calgary? What's the closest major city?
That's a good point. Lethbridge is kind of the south central of Alberta. So I'd have to check. Just give me a sec. I'll pull that up.
Yeah, no worries. So, well, it's funny because Lethbridge, because we read and we follow a lot of things in Alberta, obviously, because Alberta as a whole seems like it's got a lot of momentum lately, especially coming off of last year and all that stuff. And Lethbridge, when, to your point there, Frank, reading retail reports out of Lethbridge seems like it's literally like on fire how busy the Lethbridge retail market is. Now, I caveat that Lethbridge isn't as big, but the retail market over there seems like it's going really gangbusters. Okay, Frank, how far is Lethbridge from Edmonton?
Yeah, 409 kilometers.
409 kilometers.
Yeah, so it's it's kind of central Alberta, and a lot of people overlook it, but it's been steady for years. And the rest of the province had the boom and bust period.
Yeah,
it came through it with flying colors, and now it's really set to become a major food processing center for all of Canada. So,
wow,
I'm very bullish on Lethbridge. It's solid, and this is what you're looking for in 2024. We're not going to have a flashy thing. I don't think your $1 million resort, your condo resort in Kelowna, maybe is going to show as much promise as buying a $340,000 home at Lethbridge.
Gotcha. Okay. Number 5, we have Lethbridge. Number 4 on our list this year is
Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. All right, Frank, tell us all about Saskatoon.
Okay. Saskatoon makes our go-to list for 2024 for its steady demand, affordable prices, and potential returns in retail, multifamily, and industrial real estate. Saskatchewan itself will post the highest GDP growth in Canada in 2024, among the highest. It's rated at 2%, whereas BC is going to be like 0.8%. And it is leading the provinces during what's going to be a muted year in 2024. But it's got the strength in the province of back. And again, we're looking at, foundational strength is agricultural and mining. And right on cue, the $7.5 billion BHP Jansen mine, the biggest potash mine on the planet, has started north of Saskatoon with a promise of 2,500 jobs. They've already hired 600 people. And these are, again, big paying jobs.
I was waiting for you to bring that up there. I was waiting for you because there's lots surrounding that in Saskatoon, and obviously it's done very, very well around it. So I was waiting for you to bring that point. But continue with Saskatoon. Yeah,
and Saskatoon, the industrial sector, which has the third lowest vacancy rate, 1.6% in Canada, like Vancouver, like we're 1.2, 1.4. But the rising demand is going to hit. They expect the price of industrial real estate to hit an all-time high at $50 per square foot in 2024. Okay, so this is, it's on a trajectory there.
So, Frank, don't mean to cut you off there. $50 a foot?
15.
There you go. Sorry, I was thinking in my head. I was like, wow, I missed that boat. If that's $50 a foot over there, 1.5. Okay, sorry, Frank. Continue.
That's up from $9 just 2 years ago.
Tremendous percentage increase. And that's one thing I think a lot of people forget. Like when you look at the industrial markets, maybe going from like $9 to $12 doesn't maybe look like a lot to the eye, but that's a 25% growth. Like that's a huge percentage from 9 to 15.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, Saskatoon's very, very well set. It also has high household incomes. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I know it's good. The average home price is $378,000, among Canada's lowest, and a one-bedroom apartment rents for $1,075 a month. I mean,
wow,
this is a place for somebody in BC. They're whining, they don't have any jobs. There's not any growth. The houses are too expensive. Move to Saskatchewan, which is a very active cultural scene. It's a beautiful city with a river flowing right through. It's got 7 bridges. I mean, it's a very nice city, and it's also got the University of Saskatchewan, and is one of Canada's most prominent biotechnology research centers. The province has sunk millions of dollars into this over the last few years, and now it's paying off. It's a very sophisticated city. People overlook Saskatoon, but for a good, solid, stake your family there, go buy a house, a nice house for $400,000, really nice, good, high-paying jobs, and I think if you can survive the winters, Saskatoon would be a great place to be raising a family this year, especially if you're coming from BC and our prices.
Well, I know we follow Saskatoon, and obviously there's a lot of commercial brokerages in the Saskatoon market, and we know clients out in the BC market that have invested in Saskatoon over the years, and they've continuously come back year after year for the past probably 3 years now. continuing to make investments into that market because they're seeing growth in the right directions, and they're obviously very bullish on it, like you. So, Saskatoon's number 4,
and like I say, it's an attractive city. It's not like some prairie cities, not to mention aren't that great to live in. But Saskatoon it's good. It's got a young population. It's kind of cool to live there, right? No, in the wintertime, it's really cool.
Yeah, literally.
Okay, now moving to number 3.
Number 3
spot, South Delta. Now, South Delta, I know it's not a town. It's not like top town, but you got 2 cities there, Ladner and Tsawwassen, But South Delta, BC, it's amazing what's like. And now this is something else to get your head around the fact that South Delta is going to be transformed over the next few years. And right now, 2024, it's the time to get in there, okay? The reasons are the development and investment. They're all starting next year. This September, the $3.5 billion Roberts Bank terminal expansion was given the green light in BC. Now, they've been talking about this for years. It's go now. Okay, it's go. It's a massive project, doubles the footprint of the current Delta Port terminal, and will increase the overall container capacity on the West Coast by 30%.
Wow.
This is absolutely huge. They're building an island, a man-made island, just to fit this terminal. It's absolutely huge.
Wow.
Meanwhile, work also begins on the new George Massey Tunnel, $4.5 billion 8-lane toll-free tube tunnel under the Fraser River, linking South Delta to Richmond and the rest of the Lower Mainland. So forget about that bottleneck we've got right now with the old Massey Tunnel that was built 70s or something, right?
Yeah.
And then now the prices are high. The prices are right now. They're fairly high in both Tsawwassen and Ladner, but they're nothing compared to what's going to happen when the tunnel really gets rocking and the terminal gets going. Okay, Sean Hodgins, president of Century Group, he developed the Southlands project in Tsawwassen after I think 15 years to get it approved. It is amazing development right now. It reaches right out to the Boundary Bay, there to the waterfront. It's got hundreds of homes built already. And when I asked Sean, who's also redeveloping the Tsawwassen Town Center Mall into a high-rise complex of residential and retail, something like, maybe you think of Oak Ridge on a smaller scale, I asked him, why South Delta? Why are you so excited about South Delta? He says 2 things, and these are top of mind right now for a lot of people. They have good schools, and they have great public safety. They've had the Delta Police Force, think about the turmoil in story. They've had the Delta Police Force now for 100 years. It's a very, very safe community. The prices, while fairly high, they're less expensive than, say, Vancouver or Burnaby. And it's got an excellent school system. It's got great job prospects, and with the new transit links with the tunnel, it's going to be a major growth market, and it all starts in 2024.
Wow. So South Delta, well, it's funny you talk about the bridges or the new tunnel coming in, because obviously that's been something that
tunnel doesn't open until 2030, but when it does open, everybody says, oh yeah, let's go buy in Delta. It may be a little bit too late by then. You get in right now, this is the time to be getting in, especially if you're a developer. I'd be looking very closely at some of the stuff like Ladner. It's got this whole downtown beautification plan they've been talking on for years. They've got all this waterfront down there they've done nothing with it, nothing at all. It's ridiculous. But this year, they've started now, but you're going to see this real improvement in Ladner, taking advantage of the fact that they are on the water and it's close to the city, and the new tunnels opening. All these people are working at the Roberts Bank, et cetera, et cetera. This is going to be a transformational real estate opportunity in South Delta over the next few years, and it all starts, like I say, next year. So if you want to hedge your bets on a good place in the Lower Mainland to be investing, I would point you to South Delta.
Now, do you feel that the port traffic coming in, obviously will shift with the massive expansion, that a lot of that port traffic is going to end up over in the Delta ports versus the Vancouver port, the Metro Vancouver port?
Well, I think it actually will reach out the impact of that, like the blast radius from that will reach into North Delta, because North Delta is the most affordable place to buy real estate in all of the Lower Mainland, really, if you look at it. So I think that Delta's got all of the land it needs and all the infrastructure that needs to become a very, very, highly populated urban center in the Lower Mainland.
Wow. I agree with the South Delta thing there, because I know it's been one thing people have been talking about. And when we look at the industrial spaces and where a lot of like the big companies like Amazon and stuff like that have been continued to expand and grow their industrial, portfolio for leases and stuff like that. South Delta and the Delta ports, Amazon's continued.
Yeah, and they also have that. And they also have that huge Tawasin Mall, which I think will finally start paying off with everything that's happening out there. When they built that mall, Cambridge built it, and they were thinking the tunnel was supposed to be approved as a new bridge at that time.
Yeah, that time,
Now they sold that mall, got bought by a very fascinating single woman from China who's been buying everything up there. And she bought the Tawasin Mall there a couple of years ago. So I think she's going to get the payoff that kind of eluded Cambridge when they built it. So here we go.
I think one thing too is, and this just my thoughts on, I think they kind of missed the boat with the whole outlet mall idea, because I think it's it's too close to Vancouver to get the brands they probably wanted to get out there. So they probably struggled with that, and then obviously the bridge not coming in, which when the Liberals at that time were having the bridge come in. So I agree with you. I think the time is now if you're going to be in that market. So Frank, we got South Delta at number 3, our first BC location. What's number 2?
Number 2 is the Terrace, BC.
Terrace, BC.
See, it's 30 minutes from Kitimat, but it's really the only livable community in the northwest of BC.
Okay.
Next year, they'll be putting the final touches on the $44 billion liquefied natural gas terminal at Kitimat, the biggest resource project in Canadian history.
Wow.
Okay. But Kitimat, I don't know if you've ever been in Kitimat, but you don't really want to live in Kitimat. You know what I mean? You're living in an industrial zone. But Terrace is different. Now, it doesn't have a great infrastructure, but this is where the developers are going to come in. Terrace it's the shopping center, the retail center, the service center, and the housing for the Northwest. Okay? The population is expected to double over the next 5 years. There's billions of dollars in development coming in, including a new surgical hospital, schools, and industrial projects, which are all tied. All the industrial projects are tied to the servicing of the LNG terminal, which will be up and running. It involves, of course, the Coast GasLink pipelines coming in from Monte gas fields. And this year, people in BC have this myopic vision of natural gas and oil being, terrible things. It's crazy. But regardless of what the government and some people think, natural gas is going to be a huge, huge international play in 2024 because of, the Ukraine war, what's happening in the Middle East, the surge by other countries to get off of coal and use natural gas, except for, of course, BC, which is trying to ban the use of natural gas at homes. Like, forget that lunacy. The world is looking for natural gas, and BC is where a lot of it's going to be coming from. This is going to be, a major, major resource development for Canada, despite what our government tries to do to stop it. Okay, so Terrace is where the money's going to be spent. It's the only livable community within commuting distance to Kitimat. This is what you have to remember. Now, this is what you can do in Kitimat right now. There hasn't been a lot of development up in Kitimat, but they're putting in a new. This is an example of what's happening up there. Developers are coming in. Swiss Real, which is, a fairly well-known developer. They've done a lot of stuff in the Lower Mainland. They're building a 21-unit detached house subdivision, aimed strictly at investors. A new 4-bedroom home, it's a brand new 4-bedroom home. They'll sell it to you for $675,000, build it, and they have guaranteed corporate rent for 2 years of $6,000 per month with renewal options.
Wow.
Half the development's already sold. Okay?
Wow.
Now, all across the north, the house prices went down in every community across the north last year, except in Terrace. It bucked the trend, okay? The average house price there is now $500,716, just behind Prince George, the biggest city in the north. And this is Terrace. Terrace has got about 21,000 people, okay? It's not, but this is what people recognize, that this is where all the talk about spending and growth and everything about the LNG, it's not in Kitimat. Kitimat's very restrictive on what's available. Terrace is where they've got the land. They've got over 2,000 acres of industrial primed and ready to rock. And they've got these great new housing projects coming in. They've also built some condominiums up there, but single-family detached house and corporate rents is where the action is. So if you want to make a good, solid investment, Terrace would be a really good play for next year.
So Terrace is number 2. So Terrace is our second BC city. So we got one in Alberta with Lethbridge. We got one in Saskatchewan with Saskatoon. We follow that up with South Delta and Terrace in BC. Frank, if I remember correctly, last year for number 1, we had Calgary, Alberta as your number 1 choice. Where are we going for 2024?
Well, we're going north, and we're going into Edmonton, Alberta.
Edmonton, Alberta, future home of the 2024 Stanley Cup champions.
That's right. if they can manage to beat the mighty Canucks.
Yeah. That's the thing is we might be the roadblock in their Stanley Cup run, which might be a little funny if that ever happens. So, but tell us all about so Edmonton, Alberta. Number 1, and that's the second year in a row you've had a major city in Alberta as your top pick. So tell us all about Edmonton and why.
And Calgary, if you look at we picked Calgary last year, and it has gone berserk in Calgary over the last year. Really everything's gone up in Calgary over the last year. Now the thing is, Calgary may have overshot. Like this year, I wouldn't rush into Calgary right now because it's starting to get overpriced, which is incredible. It was so low for so long, but this year the switch is on to Edmonton because Edmonton, it's been slowly sleeping away here.
Yeah,
it's the real pivot for the oil and gas industry, which is taking off. And if you look just at the mergers and deals that have been done, multi-billion-dollar deals just in the last quarter. In Alberta, it's amazing, and Edmonton is really where the action is. It's the most affordable city in the country, according to the Canadian Real Estate Association, because of the high incomes and the low house prices. The $374,000 for a house in the composite home price in Calgary is $374,100. This is a cosmopolitan. This is a big city. Okay, that's 3 points less than a year ago. Right? It's less than it was a year ago, and 57% below the national average. It's just crazy. And it's got huge employment there. For pragmatic commercial investors, Edmonton means opportunity, especially for multifamily investors. The average apartment building sells for $134,000 per door in Edmonton. In BC, it's closer to $500,000. In the west side, across the city, it's like $280,000, $290,000. Per door. In Edmonton, it's $134,000. It's got record levels of immigration. Alberta's attracted more people this year than BC or any other Canadian province. People are going there, not only internationally, but from across Canada, because this is where the jobs are. The boom is back in Alberta, and Edmonton is where you're really going to see the big growth in jobs and real estate in next year. That's completely, I think, it'll outwork Calgary. Okay.
Now, Frank, do you know offhand what the vacancy rate is like for the multifamily type of things? That's one thing I think over 5%. The years. 5%. There you go. So that's much better than I thought.
It's 5%. It's very healthy. There's still lots of room there to go either way, but compared to BC, it's like where it's 1%, like 1% or something. So there's a good choice there. And again, all these young millennials like that and Gen Xers in BC are saying, I'll never be able to afford to buy a home. Well, Edmonton is a great place to work. The weather's not as good as it is in BC, but come on, it's there's good jobs there. It's a very vibrant city. It's got a great sports center and entertainment center downtown.
Yeah.
It's not a boring town. They've got a fantastic library system, for example, one of the best in North America. And the industrial market, like if you're into a heavier investor, they've seen positive absorption for 12 straight quarters with no sign of a slowdown. Now, in BC, we've got a pretty good industrial market, but this quarter over quarter, asset sales in Vancouver were down 42%. Okay, the cracks are appearing in Vancouver's market because it got overpriced.
Yeah.
And when you talk about people leaving, like the editorial I've got in the Western Investor for November saying BC, those trucker tail lights are heading east. They're going into Edmonton. They're going into Calgary because everything is so much less expensive there. Okay.
Yeah.
There's 2 million square feet of industrial under construction, a vacancy rate of 4.3%. The average lease rates are the second lowest in Canada at $10.57 per square foot, cheaper than Saskatoon. Okay. Industrial investors from Vancouver, Calgary, and Toronto will be turning to affordable, accessible Edmonton in 2024. And a lot of people, home buyers, I would advise them to follow suit.
Yeah, well, it's funny because we've had guests on the show and we've had commercial brokers join us both from Edmonton and Calgary, and we had them on 2 years ago. We had a follow-up show this past year with the ladies, and both the lady we had on from Edmonton and then the ladies we had on from Calgary all kind of echoed the same thing, like the industrial lease rates and various asset classes and all that stuff. So, all the stuff they've been talking about over the past 2 years, you're just echoing. And I know when we had the girls on from Calgary there, one of Melissa's favorite places was Balzac area there, where they had all that massive industrial going on and like Amazon and all this stuff. Like, it's amazing to hear what's going on in Alberta. And this year, it sounds like Edmonton's right at the forefront.
Yeah, and it's because oil is going to be now it's I think it's bouncing around $90 a barrel. It's going to be over $100 a barrel, I'm sure, and it's going to stick there for a long time. Well, BC is going to be saying, how can we get another solar panel on the roof? They're putting in massive industrial plants in Alberta, to take advantage of the global price of energy, This is where the action is next year. This is where you got to think about it. Edmonton's is where it's going to be happening.
So just to recap our list here, Frank, before we jump into our 6-pack of questions here with you. So we have Lethbridge, Alberta at number 5, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan at number 4, South Delta, BC, which can be driven by the new Massey Tunnel coming in and the expansion of the ports. We have Terrace, BC, and then number 1, home of the Stanley Cup champions, probably in 2024, if they can get past the Vancouver Canucks, Edmonton, Alberta.
That's right.
So, Frank, I'm going to ask you the obvious question here. If you had money and money wasn't an issue, which one of those 5 markets is Frank putting his money and what asset class?
Well, to tell you the truth, I'm picking Terrace.
Terrace.
Yeah. You've got to get a good property manager out there because, it's a northern city, which all that means. But they do have good management in the ones I've looked at up there. It's inexpensive to get into, and the guaranteed the corporate rents are great. Deep pocket tenants and very little trouble. So,
well, it's funny you say that too, because there's a couple major national tenants that we've done work for over the years, and this year when they're scouting new locations for places they want to open, these people on their list have Terrace BC, and these are like 80, 90 plus store type multi-unit tenants that
right.
Terrace BC is on their list. So there you go. So Frank, before we let you go, we have our 6-pack of lighthearted questions we ask all of our guests. Do you mind sticking around for just a few more minutes?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
The 6-pack is powered by our good friends over at Red Point Law.
Red Point Law, Cory, Tim, Falco, Scott, and the team. These are great people with a wealth of experience when it comes to commercial closings and private lending. And I just want to say, Cory, not to cut you off, they have a perfect 5-star review on Google.
So for all your commercial legal needs, visit them at redpointlaw.ca with offices in Vancouver and now open in downtown Kelowna. All right, Frank, first question up. Favorite restaurant or bar?
I like, I think it's called Charles down in Gastown.
Charles Bar. Is it Charles Bar?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Charles Bar. Charles Bar in Gastown. Yeah. Charles Bar in Gastown.
All right, Frank, you found yourself on death row. What's your last meal?
Steak and fries.
Steak. Any particular restaurant you're getting steak and fries from?
The Keg, of course.
The Keg. Yeah, we always talk. It's just the default. It's the default there, and it's like
right.
It's great. You know what you're getting there. The Keg. It's always good. The mud pie is amazing. Or no, Billy Miner pie. Billy Miner pie.
What's that?
Billy Miner pie at the Keg. The dessert there, the cake you get. A friend of mine was in a grocery store and took a photo that you can actually get like Billy Miner ice cream now in a store, and it changed my life and probably going to change my midsection here pretty quick. All right, Frank, next question up. Favorite band or musician?
Mick Jagger, my hero, and the Rolling Stones.
Rolling Stones. Any favorite particular song from the Stones?
Start Me Up.
Start Me Up. There you go.
All right. You're drunk at a bar and you're handed a karaoke mic. What song are you singing?
Okay, that's good. Okay, I'm doing a Kinky Friedman song.
Okay. Any particular one?
So I was going to go Asshole from El Paso, but I think my favorite would be. I'm just trying to think of how it starts. Anyway, it'd be Kinky Friedman song. He's got about 8 of them that I'd sing one of those because nobody's ever heard of them before.
Okay. A book recommendation for our listeners.
Any book by Philip Kerr. He died last April, but he's a fantastic writer. It's based in Berlin and the before, during, and after the Second World War.
Okay, good choice.
All right, last question. Something you've purchased for under $1,500 that's had a positive impact on your life.
Well, I had the same answer last year on this, and I still go with it, my e-bike.
Oh, e-bike. 2 years in a row, just like Alberta.
Yeah.
2 years in a row. The e-bike's going strong.
Yeah.
Excellent.
No, they're great, yeah.
Well, Frank, we can't thank you enough. I appreciate you coming on the show. This is our 3rd year in a row now you've done this with us, so we're greatly appreciated. How can our listeners find out more about yourself, what you're working on, and all about the Western Investor? Well,
just go to westerninvestor.com. All my stuff's up there. Peter Mitham now is writing for us as well, who's a great real estate writer. And if you go there, check it out. I also write a lot for businesses in Vancouver, so you may see my stuff in there as well. And I'm working on a book, so keep that in mind. Maybe next year I can tell you about that.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. Well, Frank, thank you once again for taking the time to join us. We appreciate you coming on the show annually to disclose the Western Investors' top 5 markets for 2024.
Thanks, Frank.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Frank. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
There you have it, folks. Our interview with Frank O'Brien, editor of Western Investor. Number 1 this year, Edmonton, Alberta. Definitely thought it would be up there. Didn't know if it was number 1 or not, but Frank, I think, added a whole bunch of facts behind it, justified their thoughts. Can't argue with it.
Yeah.
Can't argue with it. And I know other markets he talked about on there. South Delta, there's been a massive industrial boom going on there. The ports are expanding. Terrace, BC on the show, we commented how we have some national type tenants that are looking in the area.
Yeah.
Saskatoon, which has been a market where I know a lot of commercial brokerages operate within, and they've been doing very, very well. And it seems like a lot of investors that we've talked to out here in BC that have invested in Saskatoon and have done very, very well. And number 5 on the list, maybe a little surprising, Lethbridge, Alberta.
Yeah.
Home of the Lethbridge Hurricanes, Western Hockey League.
Yeah. It feels like a very practical 2024 type list.
Yeah, and I think one thing Frank gets into, which is really, really important, is he sort of says, hey, this year it's going to probably be very stagnant, not a lot of GDP growth.
Yeah.
So we're not looking for flash in the pan markets. We're looking for steady markets that are going to continue to have an upward tick when a lot of markets have pulled off.
Yeah.
So those are Frank's top markets. As we mentioned there, the Western Investor, kind of like the Bible in commercial real estate here in the West. Definitely make sure if you want to read more about what Frank talked about there, you can go to their website, or you can buy the paper copy when it comes out next month that you can actually go and probably read all those facts that Frank was providing. One thing we wanted to touch on really quickly before we go today was the short-term rental impact of the new BC laws. And Melissa, this is more your business than mine.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts and how will that impact a market like Vancouver?
I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that it's probably a good move by the provincial government. I think that it's going to impact different markets pretty differently. Vancouver specifically, I don't know that it's going to do too much for pricing affordability, like housing affordability, only because there already aren't a lot of buildings that allow short-term rentals in Vancouver. And so I don't know that it's going to add, a whole flood of inventory to the market. I think those particular buildings could take a hit in terms of their pricing. But it has yet to be seen, of course. And, probably Kelowna is going to be impacted a lot more, although it seems like they need to do some ironing out in terms of the buildings that are, going to be maybe grandfathered in for the short-term rentals.
Yeah.
And it sounds like municipalities will have some room to sort of make the changes that they need to the regulations. So We'll see. But in terms of Vancouver, I don't really know that it's going to do all that much.
Yeah, no, I think I tend to agree with you in the Vancouver area as well. I think there's more things that are needed to create more rental stock. But I do agree with you, markets like maybe Victoria or markets like Kelowna that have zonings that kind of permit this stuff. It'll be interesting to see how it impacts that, because I know we had a gentleman in one of our offices that were looking at buying a condo in the capital region there. And one of the things that a few of us brought up is, hey, if rules ever change on Airbnbs, you got to be very careful. And for his sake, he didn't buy it. Thank goodness now.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you that, when you're making these investment decisions, I don't know that cross my fingers and hope is exactly my strategy. And in that case, this individual is hoping that the BC government would never change. They came out just months after we had that conversation with it. So it's very lucky he didn't make the investment at that time. I think it will be interesting to see how municipalities do deal with it and how long-term it may or may not affect markets like Kelowna that has quite a bit of that, which is a great vacation spot.
Yeah. And for a lot of these condo buildings, you're relying on the strata too to not change that.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
Right?
Yeah, good point.
So, no matter what the government does, the strata could change that at any time, really, right? So, maybe it's not good to rely on that investment, right?
Yeah, that's why you buy commercial, right? All right, Melissa, and for all those who do maybe want to buy residential properties or potentially sell their Airbnb condos,
there you go.
How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can call me 778-869-4477 or email me at melissa@vancouverrealestatepodcast.com.
And for all your commercial real estate needs, feel free to reach out to us at williamwright.ca. You can reach us at our Vancouver office, 604-428-5255. Let us know what you're looking for. We'll put you in touch with the best agent throughout the province. Or you can always send me an email, Cory@williamwright.ca. Always love hearing about the show, and we got a ton of exciting guests lined up here. So we're looking forward to the next one, but thanks so much for listening, guys.
Subscribe today.